Okay, thank you again for watching, guys. All right, so it is my pleasure to introduce the expert in this field, someone who is the chief wealth strategist of a company we are partnering with on Limit, and he's going to be going through and explaining and talking to you about, what are all the benefits? What is it that the top 0.1% do and have been doing for over 100 years? What are some ways for you to get ahead this year, 2025? I believe this is the year for people to kind of plug in and start, taking care of their finances and getting things in order. And I'm just excited. I feel a fuel. I feel like something is happening. Something's in the works. And I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I'm hoping that it's going to make a big difference here with our Mint Builder family. Thousands of customers are going to like take charge and do that. And I think this is one of the biggest steps to help you get in the right direction because there's a lot of automation behind it, in this kind of way of savings to get yourself to be able to invest and all this kind of stuff. It has to start with the savings first. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mike Swally. And Swally, I'm going to let you go ahead and carry it on from here. So I will let you take over the screen sharing here.
Well, fantastic. Well, Matt, thank you, buddy. I appreciate the opportunity today, and thank you guys for taking time out of your day to learn and educate. And hopefully, this presentation today will give you a little bit of insight. It's going to be a little bit more of a 30,000-foot view of what we're going to discuss. But what I like to do is, understand the problem and then before we get into the solution a little bit. So we have to talk through what's going on in our economy and then get into the weeds a little bit about what this product do and what it can provide for you. Now, look, everybody's going to have a different situation, so that comes next step. If we want to get into how would this look for me, that comes with another meeting, obviously. But today is just going to be a good overview. Hopefully, you'll get some stuff out of it. I'm going to go pretty quickly today because we want to keep it short and sweet, but also provide as much value as we can. So let me make sure I can share my screen here well, and we'll start here. All right, guys. And look, Matt did a great job introing me, and he mentioned my company, Unlimited Wealth. I do want to let you all know you're going to see some slides today from my parent company, which is Nowlin Wealth Management. We are a full comprehensive wealth management team out of Birmingham, Alabama. But Unlimited Wealth is the educational platform that we use to teach people specifically about infinite banking and specifically about this savings strategy. And that's where we're going to start today. So with any type of investment or savings, we have to departmentalize and understand that, and Matt did a good job explaining it right out of the gate, is that investments, whether it's real estate, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's coin, whatever you guys might do, invest in your business, pay off debt, whatever you're going to do eventually with money, those investments have to flow from somewhere. And typically, what we found with most of our clients, they flow from savings vehicles. So let's just define those two vehicles. So savings is dollars, obviously, that is earmarked for a purchase, money we can't afford to take risk with, money that we know we have to have access to and can get use those monies without restrictions or any of those kind of things. So investment dollars are going to be typically money that we're getting a higher rate of return. We're going after at least a higher rate of return. And those investments do come with the probability of loss or could take on loss. So there's a little bit of risk factor there. So with the infinite banking concept, more than anything, and one of the most prominent things, because we do talk about some big numbers sometimes. We have clients that do, $4,000 or $5,000 a year into this strategy, and we have clients that do over a couple $1,000,000 a year into this strategy. So when you talk about large numbers, sometimes that our brains automatically shift to, well, this is going to be a good investment. This is going to be, but it's not. This is a savings vehicle in which we capitalize in, we accumulate wealth, and we control in a warehouse that then we ultimately deploy into other investments in our lives. And so just today, what we're going to talk about is if we could, and I'm kind of moving fast today, so typically I would ask the crowd or ask the people that we're speaking with if you could paint a perfect savings vehicle. If we're going to talk about savings and we know we want these certain characteristics, what are some things that we would check a box for us, right? So if you could walk into Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Chase tomorrow, wherever you bank at, and you sat down with the bank manager, what might be some demands you say, if I'm going to park my money with you, here's what I want. And this is what we typically hear. I would say we typically hear five of these six. Number one, first and foremost, we hear, I want a competitive rate of return. If I'm going to deposit money at your bank, I need a competitive rate of return. I need guarantee and safety that my money can't lose or go backwards. I need liquidity, need access to that money. Need it. I would love in a perfect ideal world, I need it to be tax free. Hey, I'm a business owner. I'm an investor. I do real estate transactions. I need creditor protection because, or I'm just a high net worth individual. I need, everybody's coming after me for my money, trying to sue me or do whatever. I need to make sure this money can never be put a lien against it or take it from me. And then, like I said, five out of six, we hear these first five quite a bit, but uninterrupted compounding is a sixth characteristic that what this means is if we were to put money into a savings vehicle, when we access the money, it did not interrupt the compounding growth inside the account. So let's look at two places. Number one place that people park money, and this should really say retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, SEPs, 403bs, whatever type of retirement account. There's $19 trillion. I think it's getting close to 20 inside of retirement accounts now. And let's just go through the characteristics. Are you getting a competitive rate of return? Well, I sure hope so, right? Otherwise, why the heck would we do them? So, but are they guaranteed to grow each and every day, every month, every week? No. Are they liquid? Absolutely not. They're tied up until 50, they're 59 and a half in most cases. Is it tax free? It's not. They are tax deferred accounts. So we can't have access to those. In most states, they are 100% creditor protected. So that's a positive. But when we start taking a distribution from these types of accounts, the balances start to go down so that the compounding effect does get interrupted. The second largest place where people park money, and again, this banks, savings accounts, CDs, money markets, those type of liquid, safe, low interest bearing accounts, this is what we're talking about. About $17 trillion resides in bank accounts or on deposit with banks right now. Yeah, if anybody here is getting a really competitive rate of return, I'd love to find out where you're banking, number one. But historically speaking, we are not getting a good competitive rate of return inside of a savings account. Is it guaranteed? Yeah, the FDIC guarantees it up to a certain amount. It's not going to go backwards. It's liquid. We can get our hands on it pretty quickly. Unfortunately, we don't earn a lot in those accounts, but if we did, those earnings that we would have would be taxable, right? And then the number one place they're going to go after us if we ever lien or we ever have a lawsuit brought against us is going to be our liquid savings or liquid accounts at banks. So creditor protection is not good. And then when we take a withdrawal out of that savings account or money market or we liquidate that CD, the balance of that account goes down. So we interrupt the compounding. So once again, only two of the characteristics that we get to participate in with these types of accounts. So two largest places in our country that people park money, retirement accounts, savings accounts, only get two of the characteristics. So obviously we're setting up the third, right? What's a good where we can check all these boxes. So what we found in our industry is, again, we're a holistic wealth plan management strategist, and so with our office, we do a lot of wealth management. We manage a lot of assets, almost $1 billion of assets here, and that's a fee-based thing. That's what most of our industry focuses on. And then on the other side of the industry is you have a lot of commission-based products, annuities, life insurance, disability, those type of accounts, and those are protection pieces, right? We're protecting your income, protecting your life, whatever it might be. Those are protection pieces. Well, you see here, it's called specially designed life insurance contracts, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But specially designed life insurance contracts sort of fit in the middle of those two brackets. They're not fee-based. We're not charging a fee for them. And the commissions are shrunk down to the minimum IRS level when properly structured. And so what they do, though, is they provide a guaranteed competitive rate of return of between 4 and 5% with most of the carriers we use. Not a bad savings account. Guaranteed to grow each and every day, every month, every year. It's liquid, not as liquid as walking into your bank and getting access to your money within 24 hours or right away, but it takes about 48 hours to 72 hours to get access to our money. So we don't use this to pay the power bill, the light bill typically, but they're going to be our larger purchases in life. Tax-free, one of the best benefits of it. So go back to that competitive rate of return. If we're getting 4.5%, 5% in these types of accounts, you add the tax-free nature of that, that would be equivalent of about a 6% high yield savings account at your local bank. That's not bad to have one of those for each and every year of your life. 100% creditor protected in about 46 of the 50 states. So if you're in California, New York, call me. I'll let you know what your restrictions are there. But for most of us, I'm in Alabama, and so fully 100% creditor protected here in good old Alabama. And then the final one, and kind of the straw, the magic, the straw that stirs the drink, or the magic behind these, is the uninterrupted compounding nature of these vehicles. There's only two financial vehicles out there that can provide this type of feature, this type of characteristic. And I'm going to get into this specific one here in a second. So let me just talk real briefly. I'm going to go through this fast about the tax-free nature of this vehicle. So you guys have probably heard of a lot of different products on the insurance spectrum: whole life, index universal life term. These are the traditionally designed life insurance products. As you probably know, term insurance, no cash value, specifically designed for death benefit. As we move across the spectrum, you start growing cash value, but traditionally designed products are still predominantly death benefit driven, not really cash accumulation driven, and for the most part, high commission driven and not really focused on the you and me. All right. So now we go to the other end of the spectrum, and there's another product that used to be super popular back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, single premium insurance. This is what the uber wealthy did. This is the books that were written on the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Ray Kroc, Walt Disney, those kind of entrepreneurs and high income earners. They use single premium insurance as their holding tank for their liquid money. So single premium insurance, in my opinion, was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Pure cash value play. If you put $1 million into one of these accounts, 1 year, one time, you had access to about $999,000 of that account immediately, and you got all those characteristics we were talking about, and it was really good. And a lot of the uber wealthy that we have heard of use that for most of their life as their savings vehicle. Well, like all good things, the IRS came along in the mid 70s and drew a line in the sand and said, "Hey, if those contracts, we can't change those. We can't go back and change contract law. But from this point moving forward, these contracts have to be designed to meet a few regulations." So what most of the industry did is went way all the way back down on this end of the spectrum and kept on doing what they were doing. But Nelson Nash, in his book, Becoming Your Own Baker, discovered that you can take traditionally designed whole life product, properly structured, focused on cash accumulation, not death benefit, minimize the commissions, and park it and design it right up against this line. Stay on this side of the tax-free line, never to cross over, but still get all the characteristics and the benefits of single premium insurance at the least amount of cost as we can possibly generate. So this is that book I referenced, and if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's not even this thick. It's only about 80 pages long, and it's one of the best reads I've ever had. I've probably read it 6 or 7 times now, and I find something new every time I read it. But this quote that he put in there: you finance everything you buy, you either pay interest to someone else or you give up the ability to earn interest on your money. It was a light bulb moment for me, because I don't know about some of y'all, but I was a big Dave Ramsey guy growing up, owned a business, and thought I was doing everything properly, didn't go into a lot of debt, paid cash. If I couldn't afford it, I didn't buy it. And when I read this book, it opened my eyes that maybe I wasn't doing everything properly. And here's a great way to illustrate that. Everybody on this call today, I'm sure everybody here buys vehicles, right? We all have cars. There's only really 2 ways to buy a car. The first person, what we call the spender, goes out and they finance that car right out of the gate. Well, they get terms for that deal. They got to pay off that note. They're paying somebody interest, and you better make sure you make your payments. But that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with financing a vehicle. I'm not trying to tell anybody they're doing anything wrong, but when they do get to the end point and they've paid off that vehicle, what's typically, you got 150,000, 200,000 miles on that vehicle, and it's time to do it again, and time to do it again. And you keep on, you understand where that's going. Well, the Dave Ramsey's followers of the world, he's going to tell you to do the opposite. Save your money, save your money, save your money. And when you have enough built up in your reserve, go spend that money. Well, as you can see, you kind of get to the same place as the finance person. because yes, below the line, we were paying somebody interest, and above the line, we were earning a little bit interest. But when you empty your bucket, don't we kind of get to the same place? And when you have that car, you own it, it's free and clear, nobody can take it from you. That's great. You're in control, but you got to start saving for the next vehicle and going up and staying on that hamster wheel of life, kind of the next thing comes up and the next thing comes up. Well, Nelson taught us is what we call becoming a wealth creator is we can put money into properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance through mutual carriers, big term, right? We call it properly structured life insurance. We put it into these vehicles and then we leverage those dollars along the way and allow our money to compound exponentially throughout our life. So I'm going to stop sharing real quick on this one because I want to switch over to another final part of our presentation and share one more story. And it happens to be my story. So can everybody see the new screen here real quick? For some reason, it's not working on my end. I apologize. Let me try that again. Technology, it's wonderful when it works. All right, here we go.
Yep, looks good.
Look good? You got the new screen?
Yep.
It says Mike Savings without IBC?
Correct.
All right, sorry. It wasn't working on my end. I apologize. Thanks, Matt. All right, guys. So I want to tell you this because I started just like you 15 years ago. I was, well, about 14, 15 years ago. I was a business owner, owned a distribution company. I delivered furniture we had about 15 trucks that delivered furniture for a lot of national retailers all over the Southeast. And I was a pretty good saver, thought I was doing well. My wife is a school teacher, and we were pretty safe with our money. And I got to go to a seminar to listen to Nelson Nash speak in 2011, and it blew me away. Read the book, wanted to learn about it, took action, called an advisor that was teaching this, and he told me to bring in my savings. And you guys probably all remember back in 2011, you couldn't just pull up your savings account statement on the internet. I had a file at home, and I was able to go get my file and bring in the last 5 years of my savings account. And my advisor just started plotting it on the wall, and I wanted to show you what he did for me. So in 2006, my wife and I had about $36,000 saved up, and we had that money in a savings account, and we would save about $600-700 a month, kind of doing pretty good in our savings. And just as life goes by, we put a new deck on our house, and then a couple of months went by, we filled it back up, and one of my kids needed braces. And then a couple of months went by, and air conditioning unit went out. A little further, went on a vacation, wife's SUV, that was kind of a big dip down on the road. Another vacation, kitchen renovation, got to have that, right? Used truck for me, and a Disney World trip. You got to always do that with the kids. So my girls loved it. I don't show you this to show you, hey, look at my story, and here's what we did. I show you this because we started out with $36,000 in 2006. And in 2011, we roughly had $36,000. In that 5 year span, we spent $87,500. That went through my fingers, and we didn't have any debt. I thought I was doing everything right. But what he showed me is that money I worked really hard for, number one, to save that money, and my wife did too. It wasn't just me. And we could have, that money's gone. I have a bunch of stuff, and I have some trips and some great things to show for it. But that $87,500 that I saved is no longer working for me. It's gone. And so what he said, if we could just turn back the clock, Mike, don't take any more risk. Don't work any harder, save any more, keep doing what you're doing, but simply change the location from a commercial bank into your own private banking system and allow your money to compound. Here's what it would have done. It would have, during that same 5 year cycle, we would have had 75,138. Not hopefully, not maybe, but contractually, that would have occurred. I still would have spent the same $87,500. That money still runs through the system, money in, money out, money in, money out. But my original balance would have never stopped compounding. That's a big deal. That's almost $40,000 worth of opportunity cost that I could have recaptured in my life in a 5 year span. Well, then he showed me the big picture and said, this is your savings account in 40 years. So, or 30 years, excuse me. Why don't you start now and get that money working for you exponentially. And that's when the light bulb went off for me, and I got off the hamster wheel of life, as I like to call it, and I started my first policy. Now I've got seven, and that I know that's going to bring up new questions, but I own three on myself, two on my wife, and one on each of my daughters, and we use probably about 75% of our wealth resides in these types of properly structured vehicles. So I love it. I've bought real estate with it. I've bought currency with it. I've bought gold and silver with it. This is where the money flows through in my life. I have to have a holding tank for those dollars. We go on vacations, we buy cars, I pay my taxes. I've invested in small businesses with it. I've done a lot of real estate syndications. Those things that I'm going to do outside had to come from somewhere. But now my money is working in two places simultaneously. Inside my policy each and every day, tax free for the rest of my life, but also now out in the market earning me more capital in different investments. So hopefully that was a good overall snapshot, Matt. I know that was quick, and I hope there's some questions for us, but I'll stop there.